Well, hey, we're live.
We're live.
Hi.
We're live.
And welcome everyone to our next LinkedIn Live. And instead of introducing you to one of our team partners today, we have a unique collaboration between AI Aura and the candidate coach. Ricky, welcome from AI Aura, the very intuitive new CRM system. And thank you, Liz, for joining and working with Ricky so creatively in putting together something which I think where 1 and 1 makes 3. So it's something that our members and other recruiters can use going forward. Bit of a change of mindset as well. So quite excited to hear you guys pitch forward with this. So we're going to kick off, which is lovely. Ricky, let's give me a bit of an overview on AI Aura and what that is, and then Liz, you just give me 30 seconds. So 30 seconds each on the alchemy training as well. So Ricky, you go first.
Right. So Iora is a recruitment operating software, which is a fancy way of saying we are your multi-poster, your ATS with CRM functionality as well. AI woven through, some features that are not quite as common on the market, and a very candidate-centric approach.
Brilliant. Well, nicely concise and very clear. Liz, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Simon. So yes, I'm Liz, the candidate coach. So for Ever in a Day, I was running workshops on leadership, influencing, and presentations, and those 3 topics collide beautifully when I am coaching candidates for interview. So my job is to ensure that high stakes candidates perform as well in interviews as they do on paper.
Cool.
Should we talk a bit about how Ricky and I came together?
Let's do that. Cool.
How did this happen?
I think the beauty of it, and I love your 1 + 1 = 3, that whole synergy type thing. Yeah. We were actually at a service providers meeting in London in the Marsh building, lovely big building there. And the theme of the meeting was collaboration. And we met at the coffee table and we started talking. And we realized that actually one of the things that we had in common was that our focus is the candidate. Right. We're like, oh, that's kind of weird, because a lot of people's focus is to help the recruiter help their candidates. And what we have as well as that is that candidate focus.
Cool. Well, that's marvelous, and we're here today to talk about AI in action, aren't we? So, and the title of the session was "Turning Rejection into Revenue." So, be quite good, I think, if we jumped into this now and we look at slide 1. Here we go. So, I think, guys, you take this away. Take it away. I will chip in from time to time with the odd question. It's your session, folks, but I'm going to nudge things along with the odd question. If I see something I don't understand or I want more, I think our watchers, our visitors, would need more feedback on that. And I'm going to just invite all the guests too, if they want to bang a question in, which I will keep my eyes on. If it's a really key question that we need to answer as we go, we'll do that. And if not, we'll cover the Q&A at the end. So away you go, folks.
Awesome. So I think we were initially going to kick off with what happens, or what's the I guess, what are people missing out on when they don't take the entire pipeline into consideration, when they don't spend the time and the care that's necessary to engage with the candidates that aren't necessarily successful. Because it can seem a little bit counterintuitive to spend any extra energy on the candidates that aren't going to be awarded. But
yeah,
I think that if you consider, I mean, and Simon, we've had conversations about this. How many people have the experience where you might have a candidate on your database, and there's a job that you're looking to fill, and you end up losing out on that job, and the candidate that was hired was someone that you had on your database, but they just got hired through another agency. And I think that that is, in order to minimize things like that, there has to be extra steps taken to make sure that you are the go-to recruitment agency, that you have systems in place to identify who these high quality candidates are, and someone has to have their eye on the candidates that have been rejected previously. There has to be some extra value added onto these individuals. There needs to be a process that can make sure that you can still extract the value that you didn't see immediately. You know, if you think about how many people refer their friends to recruitment agencies, you know, your friend might be looking for a job, might be looking for work, and you think about how many times somebody was referred for a job that you have going, and it wasn't your agency that was referred. So it's kind of difficult to calculate exactly how much money is being left on the table, but we do know that it's, you know, it's a significant amount, and the work needed to transform that into your favor is not actually that time or financially intensive as people might think it is.
Cool. Good.
Yeah. So up on the we've told you how the collaboration came about.
Yeah.
Jahisha.
It's all right.
So that's what we're doing. That's the sort of the flow of our conversation. So just thinking about what's typical in you know, in the way that we reject candidates at the moment. Thinking about that, I'm sorry, it's a no, and what's the hidden cost of that? And it's not just a financial cost. Then contrasting the recruitment funnel that I'm sure you're all familiar with, thinking about, you know, is there a different way of doing that? Ricky and I have come up with some practical alternatives that really come from this collaboration of the human side versus the tech side. So the reality of candidate rejection today.
How do you how Liz, do you think people are currently being rejected?
Well, I wonder whether, and this was a question that I was going to put to the listeners, the watchers, the viewers. So Jahisha, if we could maybe look at, so what happens to them at the moment? You could put the job up on a job board. You might get anything from nothing to 400 or hundreds. So there's a screening, obviously there's a screening process, a matching process. We've got some that are just a little bit out of kilter in terms of the matching, and some that are a long way off. That easy apply almost era of throwing a CV up just to see what happens. And I know, you know, recruiters that are watching this will know that all too well. And there's the practicality of, so what can we actually do with those hundreds of applicants in a practical way that isn't going to take up days and days of emailing and connecting? So one of the questions I'd like to put out there is to how do you update your candidates that they have not been successful?
I got a question for Ricky, actually. I think it's relevant now.
Okay.
See, most recruitment databases are full of rejected candidates. Recruiters are looking reactively and tactically at live jobs. They're looking to find their gold, silver, and bronze. So they're looking for 3 candidates that might fill the role. I'm oversimplifying this. They're ignoring the maybe 50 to 100 other candidates that might have applied. That they might be uploading them to the system if they've got some skill sets that fit the type of business that they run. But so I'm going, most recruitment databases are full of rejected candidates that no one ever speaks to again, unless they pop up in another reactive or tactical search.
Right.
So from an AI and data perspective point of view, how much revenue is sitting there unused?
That again, Simon, that's it's hard to measure, but it's kind of like if you own a restaurant, right? And or let's say Costa, right? There are some people who are going to walk into that Costa, and the first thing that they're going to do is find a seat and pull out their laptop.
Yeah.
But it is practice to have good customer service and to positively engage with everyone, whether they're buying something or they're not buying something. Imagine if Costa had a policy where they only deal nicely with the people who are at the till paying for something. How much money would they be losing? How much revenue would they miss out on? How many people would have maybe bought a coffee later that then won't because the service was atrocious? How quickly would the word spread that their customer service was not good? Or it's hard to measure. But if you had a system as a recruiter where the candidates who might not be a suitable fit for the job they've just applied for still get some type of benefit, then how many of those candidates might be a better suit for another job? How many of those candidates might not have made it to your gold, silver, and bronze, but maybe you put up another job a month later and that candidate's going to get the role. And because of the way that you dealt with them, because of the system you have in place that can identify them quickly, they get that role through your agency rather than through the other 3 ones that they've applied to.
Okay, I like the thought process. My next question is how. So perhaps we move on. I don't know. Are you ready to do that?
How would that work? So I could.
Are we going to next slide, or are we ready?
Yeah. What's the next slide? Right. So how do people currently reject candidates? This is auto email, manual email, phone call. We don't unless asked. Right. So there are quite a few complaints. And I know it's not the recruiter's fault, because you might put out a job and you get 50 applicants. Sometimes you get hundreds of applicants, man. And it's unrealistic, especially the amount of pressure that recruiters are on, to speak to each and every one of these people individually and give them a nice, a personal message. But there is a stigma when it comes to recruitment companies that if you are rejected, you will just have to kind of wait. And if you haven't heard anything back in 2 weeks, then just assume that you're unsuccessful. It's almost like being ghosted. You're talking to a lady, you send her a message, and it's on blue tick and there's no response, and you just have to, after a while, figure that you're not successful. That's kind of the experience that a lot of
and Sue Burton even mentioned in the chat, there's auto replies that are so generic,
right?
Sarah.
And you're being rejected. The system has done it. Nothing. No one's had any personal interaction. It's the computer says no.
Yeah.
To quote a rather dated comedy show now. Okay.
So I mean, for us personally, recruitment is fundamentally a human process, and that you cannot take the humanity out of it. So our goal, and I personally believe that the goal of AI, when it's used properly, is to enhance the recruiter. It's to enhance the human experience, not to take it over. So we don't even have the software create the message for you, because it's going to sound like AI. What we can do is we can have the recruiters one time maybe create a message that can then be automated to everyone that's spoken to. So you put your human touch in it. How would you send that letter, that email? If you would like the AI to then tweak it, if you'd like it to make it sound more professional, make it sound more, caring, more human, more understanding, or whatever it is, that the AI can help tweak it, but we're not going to create the message for you because it needs to come from a human being. We will just automate the process of it going out.
Okay. Good. Are we moving on?
We can.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's that catch-all. I'm really sorry, but other candidates were stronger. You know, whether or not that's the right message, we know that that's one that's very commonly used. It's very vague, deliberately vague, probably not very helpful, and it kind of ends the conversation. And I did a LinkedIn poll recently saying, you know, how would you like to be communicated with? Part of the response was, well, quickly and concisely, you know. So being left hanging, like Ricky was just saying, can be really frustrating, but also your mind talk fills in all the gaps, doesn't it? It sits there saying, well, perhaps I was too old, too young, too inexperienced. You know, you're second guessing what it was that meant that you weren't the right fit. So part of them said, please tell me, but tell me quickly. And the other responses were around, can you give me something useful? Something that I can actually practically take on board and action.
Yeah, I think that's good. Liz, let's be honest, most candidates do get, well, if they get anything, it's a generic rejection email or nothing at all. What does that experience feel like from the candidate side? Because you talk to candidates all the time. And Ricky, I'm pleased you picked up on this, but I'm throwing this one at Liz.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like from the candidate side?
Well, I mean, it just, you know, they tell me it feels hideous, it feels horrible, and I think with a lot of people, if they're applying for one, they're not doing it. They're doing it sequentially. So they apply for one job, wait for a response, get no response, or get the, you know, sorry, there was a stronger candidate response, and then they start over. So again, another LinkedIn poll that we did asked, you know, it was this fantastically disturbing statistic that 47% of candidates who've accepted a position still carry on looking.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, well, let me secure something, but let me carry on looking. And to me, that says something about the lack of relationship that they have with the recruiter. So they feel, well, you know, I've said yes to their face, but actually I'm going to carry on looking. So all of this means that the relationship isn't deep enough for them to want to stay with that recruiter and be honest with them.
Ricky, you're on fire. Okay, we're all good. Now, I think part of the problem with that is, Liz, and you just mentioned that because it's a stat I've used. You would have heard me say that at a couple of team meetings. It is about 45 to 47% of people that get the offer, accept, and then keep interviewing. Recruiters aren't getting under the skin of those candidates to really understand their motivation, and it's tough out there at the moment. Candidates are looking for new jobs. They find a job they quite like. They get an offer. They go through the process. They accept the job because it's better than what they've got at the moment, or if they haven't got a job at the moment, it's a job, but it's not what they really, really want. But they take that because the recruitment company hasn't really drilled into what's right for that candidate and what he or she really wants in their ambition and what their drivers and motivations are for their next role. So it's like, it's just, you know, this is all client facing. Client likes the candidate, get the candidate in, got the candidate in offer. Everyone's putting their thumbs up at the recruitment company and thinking, oh, commission, without thinking, hang on a minute, what about if this is going to be a fallout later? Why did they accept that role? What's going on in the background? Anyway, it's a good answer. I think we should move on to the next slide if we can. Thanks, Jaisha.
Right.
Off we go. So
if we,
oh, you do.
I think there's an animation that's coming, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. Here it comes. Boom. Rejection's a make or break moment. Yeah. Take us through that then.
So this is what we're saying. I think that if we refine this process, right, the process of rejection, then it's going to impact how, number one, how people perceive your recruitment company. The ones who work, because not everybody who gets rejected is unsuitable. You know, there's going to be some people who really have a lot of work to do, and they were just applying like it's a Hail Mary shot. And there's going to be a lot of people who are suitable for the role, and maybe they just weren't successful for this particular role, but they will get another one that you might.
Ricky, you're definitely on fire.
Yeah. They might be getting another one that you will also have available in the next couple of weeks. And so the relationship you have with the candidates that aren't successful is very important. It's the difference between constantly having to go to the job boards, constantly having to seek out new candidates, headhunting, versus, and I've spoken to a lot of recruitment agencies that they find it so easy to get the candidates that they're looking for because they've just got a database of them, they've built strong relationships with them, and so getting hold of them is easy. And then there's others who constantly have to be out there fishing and paying for paid ads on the job sites and constantly, you know, headhunting to find new ones, because there's this churn that's taking place with the ones that are coming through. So in addition, there's also, you know, not the best perception of the recruitment industry online. If you're to Google recruitment companies are on Google and let it populate it, you know, it wouldn't say a box of roses, you know what I mean? So, and that is, if we're being honest, it's disgruntled candidates who are going to be the ones that have the emotional impulse to go and leave a review. I didn't like the way that I was spoken to. I didn't like the fact that I didn't. Those are the ones who are going to leave the review. And it's unfortunate, but if we just had something in place that didn't require too much effort on the side of the recruiter, that would still make sure that they left, that all the candidates left with some kind of value, even the ones that had no business applying.
I like it. Let's move on. We've got lots of slides to go to. So I want to get to some solution stuff soon. So
okay, let's go.
Cool. Yeah, if we can go on next slide. Cool.
Right, again. Yeah, we can go to next slide.
Yeah, is that we're there, aren't we?
Yeah. The hidden cost of no. Okay, yeah. So
I'm not commenting anymore, Ricky. I know that's you. So where are we jumping around a bit here? Have we got the right slide? Have we jumped forward too much?
So this it's okay. This is good. So this is where we're saying, so candidates, you know, they just want something to go on, and what they really want to know is, how do I become stronger? How can my proposition be stronger for the next time that I apply? So rather than there was a better candidate, or there was a candidate who lived nearer the office, or, you know, whatever the reason might be, it's like, how can you help me become a stronger proposition?
Yeah. Okay. Good. I get that. Yeah.
So if we looked at the funnel slide, Jahisha, the next one.
So we get into the practicality.
Yay. So I think that this is what we're saying. So you put a job up on a job board, you get hundreds of applications. So you attract the applications, you screen them, and then you reject, and there's potentially hundreds of people that are rejected. The flywheel analogy is quite different because it keeps it in the system. So you're attracting, you're screening, but you're offering some support, and that's what we're coming on to share. You know, how can you support those rejected candidates and then retain them within your CRM so that you don't have that situation Ricky mentioned earlier where somebody else has actually placed a candidate that's sitting in your own CRM.
If I go back to my recruitment time, and we would get and on a really good job we get 100 applicants, and I'm rounding numbers. We were focused on our gold, silver, and bronze. Let's fill the job. Let's make some money. Let's keep the client happy. Really make candidate gold candidate happy with the job. Silver and bronze, we can look for other jobs to place them with because they were really, really good. But we didn't have time or process to look after the rest. So they just got the rejection letter, but you're talking about supporting them. So I want to move on and find out how we can do that, because I think in that first question, this will be unpicking the huge ROI and value in the rest of that data set. Not just the 3% that were gold, silver, and bronze. What about the 97%?
Exactly.
So how do we get there? So what's next after this funnel? Okay.
So once we build this, right, what happens is our practical alternative might be something to the effect of, let's say you had a software that gave, like Iora or Linker, that gave the candidates their own dashboard. So when they log in, they are, or when they apply for a role, they're prompted to their own dashboard where they have live feedback on where they are in the application. So that means once they've applied, as soon as they're shortlisted, it's automatically updated to them, and they get a push notification on their phone to take them to their dashboard where they can see where they are in the funnel. So they get live feedback. No one's ever going to walk away saying, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know when I got rejected. No one said anything to me. They're updated automatically. And then also, if on that same dashboard, they were to receive live CV analysis, I think that would be a beneficial thing for them to walk away with, because it gives them pros of their CV and the cons of their CV, what's not working for it, why it might not be looked at as the best candidate, and then tips on how to improve it. And our software, the good thing about it is we've trained it to look at CVs holistically. So it's not just going to look at keywords, the job based on a job description and match the keywords. It's going to look at things like short, if you've had short roles in succession, it might mention, hey, a recruiter might look at this and think twice if they're looking for someone who's going to be in a position long term, because you've got a lot of short roles. You've got a history of being in short roles. Transferable skills, intent, the intent to sort of move forward in the vertical. These are all things that are being taken into consideration by the AI. So the kind of feedback that's been given on the CV will really impact and assist a person in improving their application going forward. And the live feedback on where they are means that they're always kept up to date. So these are the two things, Liz, that were mentioned when you did your quiz on LinkedIn. And this is what people were saying. They want to be updated, and they want to have something practical and useful that they can walk away with.
I like that, Ricky, because if you identify, we don't want anyone to lie about their short-term options, if they've been going to, but they might be able to explain that if they realize that it's a weakness, and they might not realize it's a weakness, but there might be some reasons why they took some short-term options, because stuff was happening in their life and they just needed that flexibility. But now they're moving into that. They want to move towards a role which is, significant and consistent for the next few years. So that's really cool. And does Iora doing that for every candidate?
Iora is doing that for absolutely every candidate. And a third thing, a way we tackle this is what we were mentioning about losing out on candidates to losing out on jobs to candidates that are in your database. We have an AI redirect. So what it means is every time you upload a new job, the AI is constantly scanning not just the applicants who have applied, but every single candidate that you've got on your database. And it's not going to let you know, everyone's new score, because a bunch of them might not be relevant. But if somebody does have a score that stands out, in a sense that it's higher than what they previously got, or it's something that makes them a good candidate for this new role, whether they've applied or not, you'll get a notification as a recruiter to say, hey, this person's suitable, you know, and it helps you to identify, right, save your time, and it helps you identify those high quality candidates faster.
And what it is, creating more time to have real conversations with humans, human to human stuff. Cool. I love it. Good. We moving on?
Yes, Liz, on your side of things, how would you assist with that process of making the most out of the 97%, we call them?
Let's call them.
And you know, recruiters constantly say, and I absolutely get it, that they don't have time to coach candidates. You know, they do a fantastic job in prepping the candidates, but coaching them, and those are the ones for shortlists. So what about all these other ones that we're talking about that stay in the system that actually need some coaching and help to get their proposition more stronger? Now, much as I'd love to, I can't coach everybody's candidates, you know, on a one-to-one. So, but that is an option, obviously, for shortlisted candidates, for high stakes candidates. But what I've also devised, and this is going to be available through IORA, is the ability to take yourself through my coaching methodology on a self-paced way. So enabling recruiters to offer that coaching to their candidates, their mismatched or rejected candidates, in a way that says, well, you know, here's the 5 ways to wow at interview. Work through it module by module, and it will strengthen your proposition for next time. So remember that slide earlier about, you know, how can I be stronger? How can my proposition be stronger? So that's where the human piece around, well, let's you can either do it yourself, you can do some self-paced do it yourself coaching, or if you're shortlisted, you can have some one-to-one intense coaching.
Cool. That's good. And so are you saying, Liz, so that no, I'll cover that a little bit later. I've got a question for you, Liz, but I'm going to hold back a little bit.
Okay.
What's next?
So these have got some benefits, haven't they, for recruiters, and they've got some benefits for the candidates.
Right.
So the fewer follow-ups, you know, one of the things that I think recruiters worry about is lots and lots and lots of phone calls saying, you know, have you put me forward? How's what's the progress like? Yeah. Have you heard anything? You know, am I likely to be an interview? You know, so these follow-ups will diminish because they've got an answer and they've got something to work on, and it's something that's helpful.
Yeah, you'll have fairly stressed out candidates picking the phone up, trying to find out what's happening, and interrupting the recruiter who's busy trying to fill jobs.
Right.
And you have other candidates sitting, waiting by their phone, getting pissed off with the, excuse my language, getting fed up with the recruiter because they're hearing nothing. So there's 2 benefits there. You get the frustrated ones ringing and interrupting you. And you've got the other ones silently feeling angry and disengaged. But,
and the thing is, Simon, the scary part is both of those types of candidates know how to leave reviews on Google.
Oh, they do. So should AI replace recruiter tasks, or should it act as an assistant that expands what recruiters can do?
So, I definitely don't think that it should. It can. I don't think it can replace recruiters. So I think that it's best used when it's there to enhance the process. It's the human to human interaction, and anything that takes time away from that should be automated if possible. But that is where the value is, human to human interaction.
Okay.
So if we go to if we go next, I think. Oh, are we? Yes.
So what's the ripple effect? Explain that. Who we got here?
Right. So the ripple effect. This is a null. This is my friend. No. But the ripple effect is that every candidate gets a better experience, and so the people who were going to refer their friends to a job would be more likely to do so through you.
Yeah.
In addition, the ones who were maybe unsuccessful for this role but would be successful for the next one, they have a higher likelihood of being successful through you. And your brand builds you get a stronger brand image, because if there's, it takes a long time to build a strong brand and it takes a second for it to be torn down. And so the fewer negative experience people are having with your brand, the less likely it is that your brand name is going to be torn down. I think it's remarkable actually how recruitment companies are building up these massive brand names when the overwhelming majority of the people that interact with them aren't receiving.
No, they're not. It's the 97% thing, isn't it?
They're not receiving very much value. And think about what that could turn into for the companies that adopt a model that caters to that 97%, as well as the ones that are being considered right now.
Yeah. This is a question I held back for Liz, because Liz, you're living and breathing, aren't you? And investing everything in the candidate now. So what if rejection didn't end the conversation? It started as a development journey.
And that's, I'm sure not too long ago, that was a hypothetical question that looked like it wasn't even possible to do anything about that. It was the necessity of volume coming through. But I think one of the things that AI has brought, and you were saying about replacing basic tasks, I think it can do a lot more than that in terms of offering candidates really workable solutions in terms of how they're going to so they get clear improvement areas, they get actionable next steps, they're confident to reapply, and they're likely to recommend. So to me, it's now in touching distance. It's now the ability to offer more people more actionable support that will allow them to pick themselves up and dust themselves off and do that start all over again thing.
I think it's good, because candidates don't write CVs that often, or even update them. So they get another job and they pull it out the drawer or off their computer and go, I better add the last job in. And they don't think about so getting feedback on the CV, the quality of that CV and how it's put together, and what relevance or irrelevance there was to the role that was there, is really positive on every single one of the 97%. That's, they were forgotten. I'm talking about my days, because we didn't have a system that did this. It wasn't invented. But this is a proper solution for better experience, more referrals, stronger brand, most definitely. Can we jump forward now? Yeah, that would be good. Thanks. Oh, here we go. Come on, solution-led stuff.
Let's go. Some solutions, actionable feedback, guidance, less communication, more meaning, engagement. Yep. So less communication, more meaning. They've a lot of the things that can be said instantly. Actionable feedback with the CV reviews, guidance with the automated tools from Liz, and stronger engagement. Yep. Next slide.
Well, where's the hidden commercial value inside recruitment databases that most agencies are missing here, Ricky?
So I think that of the candidates, right, whatever amount of candidates that come through you every year, right, there's a certain percentage of them that are going to apply for maybe the same role after some time, within that same year, or apply for a different role and get it. There are some who would improve, tweak their CV, maybe use a better tool to help them reformat it or whatever, and it wouldn't be disregarded straight away. And those people are then going to get into the workforce. So they were rejected at the start of the year. They're going to get back into the workforce at some point that year.
Yeah, that's cool.
And what you need to do is ensure that those people are doing so through you. So create a net that can capture as many of them as possible. And we do.
And you will get. Here's the wonderful thing about humans: if you give them, if they have a good experience, even though it's not successful, I'm not going to call it negative, not successful with a job, you're going to get referrals, because I'm going to go to I'm going to use 97% again. 97% of recruitment companies now are not looking after rejected candidates unless they're gold, silver, and bronze. So you're not going to get referrals from those people into your recruitment business unless you're giving them some feedback. So that's cool. I think we need to move on. We're at 13:42. We got a bit to go, haven't we? Okay. Cool. So where are we now? Yeah. Boom. Did we jump 2 there? What happened there? I hadn't seen that slide before. Can we come back one? Yeah, I think we might have covered that. The way you reject candidates impacts the chances of them reapplying and recommending. Yeah, we sort of covered that.
That's what we just did.
I think the question I might have had for Liz was, how often are strong candidates rejected simply because they need a few small improvements rather than being the wrong fit entirely? You know that. Liz, you're coaching candidates all the time on their strengths and their weaknesses, aren't you? And maximizing their positives, minimizing their weaknesses, or working on the weaknesses to improve them, aren't you?
And you know, I'm sure all the recruiters watching and listening will know how fine the matching criteria are, and how you could be just outside it for the smallest of reasons. So I think, and also back to your bronze, silver, and gold. I think nowadays people are going through the interview process for different reasons. They may be wanting to get a counter offer from their current employer, or they, as we said, 47% of them are carrying on looking and looking elsewhere. So you need a really strong shortlist. But also, back to Ricky's point about the Google reviews, you don't just want 3 people to say that recruiter was amazing to work with. You want you want that top 50 or the top 30 to be saying, I was treated really well, they gave me some actionable feedback, I've been given access to some self-paced learning. I feel that they have my best interests at heart. I think that's absolutely crucial to getting a positive brand reputation out there.
Let's jump forward one. Thank you. That was good. So clear improvement here.
We want to look at the second to last slide, Jahisha. Yes, this one.
Cool.
Is so what the premise of our collaboration, isn't it, Ricky?
Right.
Can we explain what you're sharing here? Because it's on a small screen, it's quite difficult to see, but there we go.
So we have a screenshot of the Iora platform, but essentially what this is about is how our collaboration can help. So what is it that we're offering?
I've expanded it now. I had the little screen, I've gone big. So it's not easier to see. So if any of you are watching that, there is a little box that you can expand it to full screen. Yeah, cool.
Right. So essentially the offer that we have is with our software and Liz's candidate coaching business, the collaboration means that what we can provide for our potential clients is we can provide them live visibility for each candidate so they know where they are. CV feedback that is absolutely fantastic and will help them improve themselves if they choose to utilize it. So for the A-star ones that will actually improve themselves, they will have that, and it will require nothing of you as a recruiter. You won't have to do it yourself. In addition, there's AI redirect, which is where the candidates that are suitable on your database will be recommended to you by the software to say, hey, get in touch with this person before some other agency does, because they're suitable for this role and you haven't gotten to them yet. They haven't applied, but make sure they apply. And then in addition, there's all the tools that can be automated through rejection messages, through rejection emails. The tools that, sorry, you know what, I'll let Liz speak about that. Liz, what do you have available for the clients?
Yeah, so we've got so this combination of the technical and the coaching, this making it more scalable, so the human piece more scalable. So as I mentioned earlier, so there's the self-paced learning, which is the 5 days to wow at interview, but we also have the interview readiness resource library. And actually, if we go to the final slide and the offering, we've got one of our ebooks available, which is developing your resilience. So as well as offering the linker trial through Ricky and the complimentary coaching credits with me, then we're offering an ebook which comes from the interview resource library.
Cool.
Yeah, which you can send that, you know, with all your rejection messages if you want, or you can automate that process with Link or Iora if you'd like. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity actually for people to use that complimentary coaching credit to get the real value of enhancing your A players, you know?
Yeah. I got a question for you, Liz, because I'm not sure everyone's sort of understood your full service offering. I know that you've worked with some recruiting businesses who have found 3 or 4 good candidates for a role, and some of those candidates may not have had an interview for 5 or 6 years. So they're very skilled, they got experience, they're right for the role. That's the recruiter's done his or her best job at putting them in front of the client, but hey, they're nervous. This is the first interview they've had for 5 years, and they're not, a lot of the time they're just not on their best. And I remember even doing some of the recruitment myself with Principal People back in the 2018, 2019. You know, this candidate is fantastic. You put them forward, you get them on the phone shortly after the interview and say, how did it go? And they go, oh, I just didn't, I wasn't on my best form. And also sometimes the interviewers don't know how to interview properly. You know, that's one of the, you know, some recruiters interview better than hiring managers. They're not used to it as well. So there's a lot of failure when there's really good square pegs to square holes, round pegs to round holes, and everyone gets it wrong on the day. So that's where you come in a bit, isn't it? For
Yeah.
you know, and you know, tends to be middle and senior roles, doesn't it, where there's great fees in, but it's making sure you have a phrase. I used to prep candidates for interview. What was your phrase to reinforce that? So I used to prep candidates. Your coaching adds a little bit more onto that, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it is about helping them perform under pressure, and you know, that's definitely the core part of what we do at Alchemy. That the alignment today is to say, well, actually, yes, those are the high stakes candidates and the shortlisted candidates, but let's not limit that coaching just to the upper echelons. You know, it's to actually make it much more available to your rejected candidates.
I get that, and I think other people did as well, because you guys have actually showcased this really well, the value that you can both give together to the whole applicant community, not just the hot list of 3. But I wanted you to give me 1 or 2 examples of where you've been involved with recruitment businesses, coaching their shortlist and the outcomes that have happened because of that. That's where that's your core business. The collaboration with Ricky and AI Aura has been amazing, because what you've then done is you've expanded your offering to the whole community. But I just wanted if you could give us 20 seconds on your core service so that we get that, we understand that.
Yeah. So I call it my shortlist protection package. So up to 3 or 4 high stakes candidates going for first interview, but I also stay with them all the way through to placement. And like you say, recruiters, the prep that they do is fantastic, but even a small example. So if the recruiter says, remember to do your homework on the organization, and people go, yeah, I'll do that on Sunday, even though I've got my interview on Monday, and the recruiter has to kind of hope that they're going to do it. The rigorous simulated interview I do with them, I say, so I'm playing the role of the interviewer, and I say, so what do you know about us? And one of my favorite examples was a candidate going for quite a senior role at Twinings. I asked that question, and I timed out, said, how do you feel about that? And he said, well, yeah, it wasn't very. And I thought to myself, I could probably have learned more from the back of an Earl Grey tea box than I learned from the answer to that question. But the great news is we had that time to work on it and to bolster it and to make it, much more impactful and much more meaningful. So, I see myself as the interface between the prep and the actual interview. And 99 times out of 100, they say, well, thank goodness I had my mock or simulated interview before the real deal, because otherwise I could have lost that opportunity.
And the worst of that is that if let's say for key roles, the client actually homes in on 2 candidates. And if those candidates do not perform well, he may be saying to, even though they're right for the role, they may go back to the recruitment agency and say, I've interviewed them both, but there's something not quite right about them. I'd like to have another look. So the hiring manager or business owner throws those 2 candidates back and say, they weren't right for me. They didn't perform well at interview. Who else have you got? Or I'm going to go and, they might then regard the success of working with you actually not a success, a failure, and start to look at other options for recruiters, even though one of those 2 might have been right, but they weren't prepared properly. They might have been prepped, but they weren't prepared or coached properly. Anyway, I think I've done you a selling job there, Liz, but because I understand what you did. I just remember we at Principal People, we had a brilliant resourcer that coached people beyond to the capacity where a lot of them said when they came back from interview, the interview I had with the client was much easier than the interview I had with your resourcing partner, because she really coached me through and drilled into what was needed at that interview space. And that's what you do, Liz, to a higher degree. I love this combo. I think it can deal with the 97%. And I don't want to kill our media buyers, but you need, you do this properly, you're going to get referrals, you're going to spend less on job board advertising, you're going to fill more jobs, you're going to have a wonderful ecosystem of a community and your candidate pool that you're going to maximize. So I love it. Any final pointers from Ricky or Liz about your the offering today and what and next steps for any suggested next steps for anyone watching? Jahisha said, make sure you claim your gift.
That's exactly what we were going to say.
Yeah.
If you scan those QR codes, you know, you can claim yourself a 3-day trial with Linker. Super easy to onboard you. We can get you onboarded in less than 48 hours. It's just an email. We'll give you give you access to the portal. You can play around with it, post some jobs, see how super easy it is to onboard. And then with the complimentary coaching credit, it's a free coaching credit. Click, scan the QR code and get yourself a free coaching credit for your ideal client. It might be the make or break, the difference between you landing that role and you not landing it.
Yeah. So Liz, just define what that coaching credit is. Are you going to give? What are you going to do for that? Just explain.
So if you've got candidates going for interview in the next couple of weeks, and you feel that there's somebody who could really use a session to get them ready to perform, particularly under pressure with those what I like to call trigger questions or curveball questions, then I'm opening up my diary for the next 3 to 4 weeks with complimentary sessions for people watching, and this live one and the future webinars. So I'd really like to get that out there. That
is brilliant. Thank you both. Well, what a great session, and a great collaboration, and well done both of you for sitting down at one table and then coming up with something all around the candidate. For the candidate, I mean, there isn't enough. We do focus so much on what the client wants because they've got the money, but they're only going to hand over that money if you find them the right candidate that's a great match for that individual. So really good collab. Hope this works, and I hope you've enjoyed it today, folks. And well done, Chahisha, for jumping us through what is a lot of slides. But I think we got that message across. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed today. Please get in contact with Ricky or Liz for more information, and definitely use those scans for your freebies. Thank you all. See you soon.
Thank you, Simon.
Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you very much, Simon. Take care. Have a good one.